Jeffrey Bezos, perhaps better known as Bezos to your average Amazon worker, international man of mystery. Some say he trained so hard to sell you books, he lost all his hair in the process. Others say he's ascended to a higher plane of existence, casting off all his worldly possessions as he rose to the heavens, all in pursuit of one singular goal.
Know this.
I will. Make the perfect MMO. But did he finally succeed?
No, not really.
So let's just all collectively take Jeffy B's little space rocket out of our mouths for a second and put our big boy pants on. Let's ask the questions that don't really have a single answer. Is New World gonna be worth your time? I've gone ahead and spent just a small portion of my time playing the New World beta and the preview event, and I have to say I'm generally impressed by what this game is overall, but I still don't believe it's living up to its full potential. So there's a lot to cover, and it's not all sunshine and orgasms, so stick around if you're up for the bad along with the good. Now there's something that's sitting there in everyone's system that we just have to get out of the way before even worrying about the rest of the review. So let's start with the biggest bad, because any true MMO fan is probably a masochist at heart. The New World beta had an absolutely monumental amount of bugs. Goodbye world, goodbye arms, goodbye legs, goodbye jumping. Bugs, bugs, bugs everywhere. That's weird. Just got the sense that someone's done this before. Oh well. Server crashes, game crashes, have more than one player in a war at a time, servers dead. Textures are far too texturous, an all-consuming void, can't pick up stuff, can't stop asserting dominance with a T-pose, frame rate problems, resolution problems, getting booted from the server queue, getting underneath the map, getting attacked by invisible enemies, spawning too few enemies, spawning too many shadows. Also, your Monarch's Bluff respawn resets to the starter beach after every death, and sometimes you just go underwater. AI is far more A than I, and a bugged main questline, just to name a few. But it gets worse. A few PC players had their GPUs brick entirely.
Boom. Gone.
Also, bad game optimization can turn your PC into sounding like a jet engine. I'm sure there's plenty more that people have experienced as well. Now, all these bugs that I've mentioned don't really say anything about the gameplay or the game itself, but these bugs will ruin the game if they are not addressed and not worked on first. So they definitely bear mentioning, especially if you're considering pre-ordering the game or buying it for full release. So let's try and make sense of the New World beta from top to bottom. The game starts off with what's admittedly a pretty cool cinematic that only manages to trigger my autism 3 times. Fingers through chair, warpy wood boat, and everyone on this island came here in a boat with some masked captain named Thorpe. This means we're either all victims of main character syndrome, or there's as much Thorpe in existence as there are potential human beings who travel to Eternum. I mean, wouldn't it have just made more sense for our captain to be some nameless knob and Thorpe to already be on the island, just waiting there to cause the storm and wreck our ship? I mean, really, doesn't it make more sense? Yeah, sorry, he's getting off track. So once we're through our awesome little cinematic, here's where we hit the character creation screen. And to be honest, it's not bad. If this game was made in 2009, Dragon Age Origins, Oblivion, Ion. What do all these games have in common? That's right, character sliders. And I'm pretty sure that could have been in the Amazon budget. This isn't exactly Goodwill developing a video game here. But alright, that's fine, that's just character creation, and that doesn't really determine anything except your entire identity for the remainder of the game. So once you've created your living abomination and your malformed character is tossed into the game and off their boat, you're hit with Tutorial Island. You get to watch your own personal Captain Thought die, and you get to do a quick time event that does a really great job at explaining how the basics of the game work. I mean, seriously, this is much more the level of quality to expect from someone like Amazon Games. You then get to go ahead and test these newfound skills out on the SCP anomaly known as Thorpe that is now somehow alive downstairs in Mommy Azoth's basement, playing with his corruption. Don't worry though, it's literally impossible to lose this fight, so if you're not feeling up to it, go grab yourself a hot drink and come back in 5 minutes. Then, once Captain Thorpe is done blasting you with his corruption spunk, this is where the real game begins. Oh, sorry. This is where the real game begins. Oh, for fuck. So once you've gone ahead and defeated the first mini-boss of the game, otherwise known as the server queue, this is where the game really actually does begin. The first thing that's likely to probably strike you is the visuals and the wonderfully integrated UI of the game. And there's only really one thing to say here. Good god damn, but this is a pretty game. Especially when you compare it to other MMOs, the views are cinematic and engaging, you feel like you're actually in a world that's being explored and colonized, and best of all, it really makes you want to experience this world and see what it has to offer. Environments are varied enough to make them special and memorable, and most settlements have their own unique charms that really immerse you in the world, and make it feel like you're really living through a special period of fantasy history. Then on top of that, Amazon went ahead and made what's probably my favorite UI that I've seen in any MMO out there. It's neat, it's clean, makes everything clear to see, and Amazon, why can't I just fucking look in my inventory while I'm auto running to a new settlement? There's even little extras that could have been left out that I wouldn't have even know I'd miss, like the ability to see where resources are, organizing your quests, finding out what's happening around the entire map, or an integrated way to see your current standing with each region. Now the sad part is that not seeing this in any other MMO I play is now just gonna kinda irritate me just that little bit. Overall though, I say good job. I give it a full 9 clumps of the finest hash located on your map out of the 10 texture packs that keep on overlaying on top of one another. Once you're done having your eyes visually jerked off by the graphics in this game, you're gonna run up the beach and meet up with someone who's going to give you a quest. And this is where we can start talking about the plot, the story, the questing, and the leveling experience. Now, one of the greater parts of this game is the fact that there actually is a greater overarching story and narrative that not only integrates you into the world, but also teaches you more about how to play the game. One of the mechanics it teaches you is to get really comfortable with that auto run button, since you'll be spending a good half an hour just running between quest markers to eventually get hold of your Azoth staff. Oh, and don't think the journey is over just because you ran there. Then you'll be spending about an hour waiting for the quest mob to respawn and praying to sweet baby Bezos that you do enough damage to tag the mob before everyone else kills it. Now that's not to say that these quests aren't good, but there is just too much downtime between them, and it really makes it feel like AGS is really trying to stretch out that content as much as they can. Two other gripes about questing is there's not much variety of it. I know that this game switched over from a PvP game to a PvE game, but really I'm judging it on what it is now, not what it was in the past. There needs to be a wider variety of quests out there than go here and kill that thing, or go here and search that box, or go here and gather that thing in that box near that thing you have to kill. I will say that it does feel quite refreshing how well integrated each one of these quest lines are into the actual gameplay. Doing a PvP quest or a town project or any quest in the world really does give you something valuable back that you can go ahead and use or level up with. There's also unfortunately no real sign of player choice or agency here outside of do this quest now or do this quest later when you have to. However, at their core, these systems are engaging, they're ultimately fun, and the level design feels absolutely magical. It's amazing to have this open world that actually has stuff happening in each zone. So, leveling systems, good. Quests, great. Storyline, well integrated into everything else you're doing and still teaching you how to play the game. But for the modern day, there's just not enough volume and enough variety of all these systems to make for a really stand-out MMO. And so, final conclusion on these systems, I give them a full 6 missed opportunities to kill that quest mob out of 9 wasted resources on the town project board. The next big chunk of new world out there to think about is probably the combat, and there's only one real way to describe it. Discount Dark Souls. Plenty of the combat nuance is removed when comparing to something like a Soulsborne game. And that is a fair comparison. Amazon themselves have said that they wanted a system like Dark Souls. There's no animation cancelling, mechanics are dulled down, hitboxes aren't as crisp, except for ranged attacks. Those are really on point. Minus the fact that animations don't equal hitboxes. The game verticality is really questionable at times, enemy knockback doesn't always trigger consistently, and enemies repeat the same scripted attack cycles over and over again. But there is one great redeeming quality, and it's the fact that it's an action combat system as opposed to a tab targeting one. You see, when it comes to action combat, you do have to apply some grey matter to win a fight, instead of just mashing buttons like you're a 5-year-old playing Tekken. On top of that, weapon switching feels pretty fluid. Making a kill on an enemy can be pretty satisfying, sounds and atmosphere are really juicy, the weight categories and classes feel really good to play around with and actually change your playstyle. And I take back everything I said about stagger being bad. Put it back in the game. Please. The most awesome thing that's linked to the combat is probably the weapon mastery system. Where the more you use a weapon, the more points you unlock. The more points you unlock, the wackier stuff you can do with your favorite life removal tool. Probably the worst part is that there's no unarmed skill. What happened, Scott? Why can I not make enemies in New World catch these hands like Bezos does to misbehaving Amazon employees who leave their piss bottles behind in their wage cage after their shift is over? But all of these problems, all these issues with combat are not really that surprising. This is an MMO and not a single player experience that has multiplayer just tacked on at the end. You gotta remember that there's a lot for the server to process in an online game. And as we know, the servers that AGS were given to work with were likely manufactured by a soldier during the Vietnam War trying to contact the outside world to find out what happened to their same-day delivery order of rice wheat that was promised to them by Jeffy B himself. Outside of that, it's kinda really fun to have these very natural impromptu groups form out in the open world, as you all have a similar objective, which is a great mirror of the way the three factions treat each other. System of I hate you until I need something. Other than that, breaches feel good and satisfying to complete. Expeditions, or dungeons as they're called in every other game, are awesome from a gameplay and story perspective, but definitely need more variety. Now let's focus down a little bit more on the PvP itself. Oh, motherfuck. Okay, but when it does work, it is good. That is obviously assuming you're not getting syndicated for the 100th time this play session. There really is something special about an action combat system that gets applied to playing against other people instead of just AIs. There's the movement, the mind games, the specialization of your techniques, the unfucking believable. Oh my. Hopefully that's enough jokes about their crappy servers to make them fix the problem once and for all. So a few random tips for the PvP. Level isn't nearly as big of a factor as you think it is. Weapon mastery is a way bigger factor than you think it is. Always remember to pack a lunch, switch your frame rate from uncapped to 30, and have enough potions on you to make it look like when you get back to the settlement, someone's waiting there to give you an intervention. Outside of that, war is fun when you're not getting completely stomped out of existence. Fort capturing feels exciting and important. And so I give the overall combat of New World a full 8 disconnections from the server out of the 10 syndicate members ganking me for the 1000th time today. By the way, congratulations to the Marauders, you're no longer the Swarm. That title now belongs to the Syndicate. Still a bunch of apes though. Now as you make your way through New World, it's almost inevitable that you're going to be interacting with the trade skills. And oh my god, the trade skills. They're so satisfying. Everything out in the open world is a resource with some use that you'll likely end up needing in one form or another. And it's not only useful to craft, refine, and gather in New World, it's almost vital to your own survival. It's all honestly integrated so well into the world and the playstyle of the game that it makes it feel like every other system around it is just kind of subpar. All other primary systems in the game should feel as good as the trade skills do, and I honestly hope they do one day, but the trade skills just stick out a head above the rest right now. From cooking to weaponsmithing to arcana, it's all amazing. And my only regret is actually not spending more time in the beta delving into each of these systems. For what I've experienced in the beta, I'm giving the New World trade skill systems a full RuneScape skilling out of a World of Warcraft crafting. What do you mean I can't divide by 0? Then one of the other larger systems to talk about is the faction system and the balance between them. So they are fun, they have their own unique interesting lore for you to find out about, but they're also completely unbalanced. If you just so happen to join the smallest one on your server, well then, good luck, you're in for an uphill battle. Trust me, I know. A lot of the problems here stem from the requirement of having to go out and PvP in the open world to start a war, and your enemies being able to see exactly how close you are to picking that fight with them. A good gangbang pile of players running after you while you're trying to pick up rocks on the beach as the smallest faction means you're not likely going to be taking that settlement away anytime soon. Other than that, factions definitely need more variation and distinction in quests that tie into the lore, and perhaps some specific gear that is unique to them, because right now it's just a mishmash of colors that make the difference. And until that happens, there will always be that one faction to rule them all, one faction to challenge them, and a third one that's bound in the darkness and no one cares about. Don't get me wrong, it is nice that people can't just go ahead and all dogpile into the largest faction, but there does need to be some greater incentive to join one of the smaller ones, or you're never really going to see any change in the number or a balancing out of populations. I can't really give the faction system a score because, well, I've seen this everywhere you go. This is not a problem that's unique to New World, and I don't even know what the solution to this would be. Hell, I don't even know what a perfect faction system would look like. Now, there are a few minor issues out there that I still think this game needs to fix. For instance, there's no swimming animation, you're just a deep sea diver. The housing systems are very nice and fun, but this abomination needs to be removed from the game, it just doesn't fit. And the part that Amazon probably doesn't want to hear any more of is I don't want to see Azoth or any of the in-game resources ending up in the cash shop. If it turns out that it's just cosmetics, then sure, fine, I'm okay with it existing, but let's be honest, it's probably not going to be just cosmetics. Aside from that, the parts that I still really like and didn't know where to put is that player housing is really well integrated into the game. If you got the best looking house, everyone else can see that. There's no singular settlement that looks like another settlement, even if a lot of them might share some similarities. The tier upgrading of all the workbenches that you find in the settlements really feels nice, and it's just incredible to walk out of the settlement, come back and find that there's a whole new building standing there that does things better than it did before. And the way the game is designed, it really does give you the sense of achievement whenever you level something up. Even if it's just your weapon mastery or your crafting, it feels really, really good. So, final score for New World based on the beta gameplay. It's an MMO.
What?
Let me explain. This game feels like an MMO instead of an RPG with online play. There's so many bad examples of MMOs out there that the MMO community has kind of just gotten used to eating shit and calling it sugar. But New World proves to me that there is at least some hope for this genre. But this doesn't mean that New World is the only hope out there. There are others out there that at least seem to be trying to do a good job as of late, which means that despite the fall of the molesty undead king, competition is actually stiffer than softer. If you like action combat, a game with a heavy reliance on crafting skills, and a beautiful looking world, then New World might just be the MMO for you. But keep in mind, I cannot recommend this game in its current state because of its server instabilities and its poor optimization. And personally, I don't think there's a short-term way for them to fix all these problems. Not even if Jeffrey himself descended from the heavens to work on the game personally, as some Wikipedia articles might have you believe he's already done. The biggest thing I'd say to look out for if you are looking at this game is the unique gameplay and how integrated every game system is into every other game system. Biggest thing to be scared of, the cash shop and the servers and the general bugs. And now for the part that I kind of knew was coming and I was just really waiting for a number.
Hi there.
The game is going to be delayed again.
What a fucking
But it's only being delayed for a month. Do I think this is long enough for them to fix all of their problems? Absolutely not, but hopefully it's long enough for them to fix at least the critical systems that make the game playable. So for all those out there wondering, the game was slated to be released on the 31st of August. It's now been pushed back to the 28th of September. But underneath that missing hairline and definitely not villainous laugh, there is something with a ton of potential here. Unlike some others out there, AGS appears to be working on their game instead of working on trying to touch Bethany inappropriately in the back offices, at least as far as we know. Which leaves me with a message for the New World team that is surprisingly more likely to get heard than it would be with other companies. New World, you're a mess. You're out here with enough bugs to make Cyberpunk blush. Some of your in-game enemies have a longer respawn timer than people do in real life, and your servers are less stable than a Parkinson's patient on a tightrope. And your optimization is so poor that if it were any worse, I'd swear I was still playing StarCraft 2. But there is still hope for you. If this was some no-name company that had developed this MMO, I'd be pretty happy at this point and think the game's complete. But that's not the case. You're Amazon. You can do better than this, and we all know that. Become the game you were meant to be as opposed to the game you currently are. So whip out your cash wad, slap it all over your employees, consensually of course, and make some magic happen. You've got the perfect foundation here. Now build the palace we need on top of it. But anyway, that's it from me. Big thank to all my subscribers, both old and new. Still can't believe that we've broken the 1K mark. That's actually a little bit terrifying. But I am glad to hear that at least some people are enjoying the content. Let me know in the comments below if I've missed out on anything crucial, because I likely have. I hope you got something out of this. See you next time. Bye.
You! Come closer. Your captain needs you. There's something wrong. I'm not feeling right. Where is my boss? I need my boss. Did you take it? I can't die. Not like